Have you ever noticed how one small decision can quietly wait in your life? Not a loud decision, not a dramatic one, just a simple choice you know you should make, but you keep delaying it. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's starting something new. Maybe it's leaving something that no longer feels right. You don't say no, you just say, not now. And days pass, weeks pass, sometimes years pass. Today's story is about one decision they delayed, and while you listen, I want you to gently ask yourself, is there something in your life I'm also delaying? Take a breath, let's begin. They were an ordinary couple, nothing special, no big drama. Let's call them Daniel and Sarah. They lived in a small apartment, not too big, not too small. It was comfortable, familiar. Every morning followed the same pattern. Daniel woke up first. He checked his phone. News, messages, silence. Sarah woke up a little later. She made tea. She stood near the window and looked outside. They didn't argue, they didn't fight, but something felt unfinished. There was one decision they both knew about. They had talked about it many times, late at night, quietly. "We should decide soon," Daniel once said. "Yes," Sarah replied, "soon." But soon never came. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever used the word soon like this? Not as a plan, but as a pause. Life kept moving. Daniel went to work. Same office, same desk, same thoughts. He wasn't unhappy, but he wasn't excited either. Sometimes, while sitting at his desk, he imagined a different life. Not a perfect one, just a slightly better one. A life where that one decision was already made. Sarah had her own quiet moments, while washing dishes, while folding clothes, while waiting for the kettle to boil. She felt a soft question inside her. Why are we waiting? But she never said it out loud. Not today, maybe tomorrow. And tomorrow became next week. Pause here for a second. Think about your own daily routine. Is there a question you keep pushing away? They didn't delay because they were lazy. They didn't delay because they didn't care. They delayed because deciding felt heavy. Once you decide, something changes. You can't pretend anymore. Before the decision, everything feels possible. After the decision, something closes and something opens. That can feel scary. Daniel once said, "What if we choose wrong?" Sarah didn't answer immediately. She looked down and said, "And what if we never choose at all?" That sentence stayed in the room for a long time. Maybe you've felt this too. Sometimes delaying feels safer than deciding, because delaying feels like control. But is it? There were signs, small ones. Daniel felt tired even after sleeping, not physical tiredness, mental tiredness. Sarah felt restless on calm days, even when everything was fine. They started saying things like, "Life feels stuck. I don't know why I feel this way. Maybe it's just a phase." But deep inside, they both knew the reason. The decision they delayed was quietly asking for attention, not loudly, not angrily, just patiently. Think about this. Some decisions don't shout, they whisper, and whispers are easy to ignore. One evening, the electricity went out. The room was dark, quiet. They sat together on the sofa. No phones, no screens, just silence. After a few minutes, Sarah spoke. "Do you remember when we first talked about it?" Daniel nodded. "That was a long time ago." She smiled gently. "We were braver then." That word, braver, felt important. Not stronger, not smarter, just braver. Because courage is not always loud. Sometimes courage is simply deciding. They didn't realize how much energy waiting was taking. Waiting needs effort. Waiting needs excuses. Waiting needs stories we tell ourselves. "I'm not ready yet. This is not the right time. let's wait a little longer. But time does not stop. While they waited, opportunities passed quietly, not in a dramatic way, just unnoticed. Daniel missed chances at work because he wasn't fully present. Sarah stopped sharing ideas because she felt unsure, all because one decision stayed unfinished. Have you ever felt tired without knowing why? Sometimes it's not work, it's not people, it's the weight of an undecided life. This story is not telling you to rush. It's not saying decide now or fail. No, it's simply showing you something soft but important. Delaying a decision does not keep life the same. It slowly changes it. You don't stay in one place. You move, just without direction, and that can feel confusing. Daniel and Sarah were not weak. They were human, just like you. A few days later, Daniel came home earlier than usual. Sarah noticed immediately. "You're home early," she said. "Yes," he replied. "I walked today instead of taking the bus." She smiled. "Why?" "Because I needed to think." They sat at the table, no rush. He didn't say, "We must decide today." He didn't push. He just said, "I don't want to keep living on pause." That sentence felt calm but strong. Sometimes the most powerful words are simple. And this is where we pause the story for now. Not because the story ends here, but because reflection needs space. Before you continue listening, I want you to sit with one thought. Is there a decision in your life that feels unfinished, not urgent, not dramatic, just quietly waiting? You don't need to answer right now. Just notice it. In the next part, we'll see what happens when waiting becomes too heavy and what gentle clarity can look like. Take a breath, stay with the feeling.
Let's continue. Daniel's words stayed with Sarah that evening. I don't want to keep living on pause. They didn't decide that night. There was no sudden action, no big speech, but something shifted. Not outside, inside. Sometimes clarity does not arrive as an answer, it arrives as a feeling, a quiet readiness. The next morning felt different. Not exciting, not dramatic, just clearer. Daniel noticed his steps felt lighter as he walked to work. Sarah noticed she finished her tea without staring at the window. The decision they delayed had not disappeared, but now it felt closer, like a door you finally see clearly after standing in front of it for a long time. Think about this. Some decisions don't need more thinking, they need honesty. That evening, Sarah finally said something she had never said before. I think I know why we keep waiting. Daniel looked at her. Why? She paused. Because deciding means taking responsibility for the result. That was the truth. If things went wrong, they couldn't blame time anymore. They couldn't say, we're still thinking. Deciding meant ownership, and ownership can feel frightening, but it can also feel freeing. Have you ever noticed this in your own life? When you don't decide, life decides for you, slowly, quietly. They didn't talk for hours. They didn't list pros and cons. They asked simple questions instead. What do we really want? What are we afraid of losing? What happens if nothing changes? The last question stayed with them. What happens if nothing changes? Sometimes that question is more powerful than what if everything goes wrong? Because staying the same also has a cost, a quiet cost. The decision itself was not loud. There was no countdown, no emotional speech. They looked at each other, they nodded, and that was it. One decision, finally made. It didn't fix everything, it didn't solve all problems, but something important happened. The pause ended. Life moved forward again. Not faster, just forward. The days after felt real. Some moments were uncomfortable, some moments were uncertain, but none of them felt empty. Daniel noticed he was more present at work. Not because his job changed, but because his mind did. Sarah noticed she spoke more freely, not because life was perfect, but because it was honest. Deciding didn't remove fear. It replaced vague fear with clear effort, and that felt healthier. This story is not about choosing the right decision. It's about choosing a decision. Because waiting forever is also a decision. It's just one you don't consciously choose. And unconscious choices slowly shape your life. You don't need to be fearless to decide. You only need to be present. Now, gently bring the story back to yourself. Is there one decision you've delayed? Not because you don't care, but because you care too much. Maybe you're waiting to feel ready. Maybe you're waiting for a sign. Maybe you're waiting for fear to disappear. But fear doesn't leave before decisions. It leaves after movement. Just notice that. No pressure, no rush. If this story felt familiar, you're not behind. You're human. Clarity doesn't come from thinking forever. It comes from listening honestly. You don't have to decide everything today, but you can stop living on pause. Even one small step forward is better than standing still with heavy thoughts. Listen to this story again if you need to. Let the words settle. And when you're ready, choose gently.